Okay, gathering some viewers. Okay, come on, guys, join in right now. Let's see how many people will be joining. Okay, so I guess we should get started now. Let's start it. Python for beginners. Now, different topics that are going to be covered today. We will discuss from introduction to data types. First, we will discuss about Python. We will install it. I'm going to install it on Windows. Then we will use the Python interpreter and explore the language as we move on. Okay, so why Python and what is Python? Python, it's a scripting language and also an object-oriented language created by Guido Rossum. I don't know the correct pronunciation, but it was his side project, something he did for fun. And apparently, Python is one of the most relevant languages of the current time, and it has vast number of libraries available. That's why it's become famous. Okay. Hello everyone. Hello. Just two viewers right now. Let's do this. Okay. Now, if you have not installed Python, then you can head over to python.org and here you can download Mac OS, Windows. It's also available for Linux. For Mac OS. Oh, sorry, Mac OS. Hello, Venom. Yeah, okay, let's install it first. It's it's quite simple. Just download the latest release. 2.7 has been the support for 2.7 has been dropped, so I recommend you use Python 3. Yes. Okay, now after the download is complete, this is just for beginners though. If you have already installed Python, it's good. Also, so that you know, just for your information, we will be using terminal and a plain text editor. We will not use an IDE for this tutorial. I will also teach you how to use a terminal if you don't know about that. Okay, here I have my installer. Also, you have to For Windows users, it's important that you add the Python to your path so that you can use it in the terminal. So tick this too, and you can either you choose this or customize the installation. Then you will have to choose where you want to install it. Install for all users. Okay, since I have already done my setup, so I will not install it, but you should install it. Okay, now another editor I will be using is VS Code. You can head over to code.visualstudio.com and download it for your platform and install it from there. Just download for Windows and install it. Alright, that should be easy. Okay guys, I'm making a new folder, Python from scratch, my desktop, and I will create a now after you've done installing the Python interpreter, you can check whether it has been installed properly or not. For Windows, it's quite easy. Open command prompt and open the terminal and type Python or Python dash dash version. It should return you the current version of the Python that you installed. Mine is Python 3.7. From if you have installed Python properly, then the version should be printed in there. And also you can use the Python interpreter inside the terminal by just typing Python and calling that. Yeah. For Mac OS, I think you Mac and Linux users should know how to open terminal, and for Mac you can just search and type terminal and it should show up on your search list. Yeah, 3 is the latest, and 2.7, the support for Python 2.7 has been dropped now. Now let's move forward. I'm going to make a new I have made a new folder named Python from scratch. Let's also make a new folder, part 1. Inside that folder we will create a new file, and let's name this intro, and also the extension should be .py for Python files. It's just like the extension should be .c or .cpp for C and C++ files. For Python it's .py. Okay, now I'm going to open this with Visual Studio. Open with code. After you have installed Visual Studio Code, you should see an option open with code for Windows users and also for Mac users. Okay, so let's write a simple script. Follow me here. Print hello world and save the file. So we can just run the file by double clicking our script, but the problem is it closes very fast since our program is executed in a second, in milliseconds. Now we need to open a terminal. For Windows users, to open a terminal in the current location, all you have to do is go to that folder and in this address bar just type cmd and our terminal should open up. Yeah, like this. So in this terminal, since we have opened the terminal in the current location, I can now call that script intro.py. Also, you could do Python 3 intro.py for Mac OS and Linux. For Windows, you can just call Python intro.py. And here we go, we have our little script that prints hello world in our console or terminal. So the concept is really clear and basic here. We called a print function, which is provided to us by default in a Python script. Print function, and we just encoded. Okay, let me do not disturb. We passed a string inside this double quote, which was hello world, and it gets printed on the console. Draw.py. Now the next thing that we need to do, let's we just saw an example of how we can give output to the terminal. Mm. Now let's write a simple script that also takes input from the user. So let's say I want to print so let's define a variable name equals to input. We are using the input function to take input from the user, and the input string should be enter your name. Now it takes the input and the name variable is going to store whatever the user enters, and let's print hello comma name. Now what this is going to do is it takes your name, saves your name in the name variable, and prints hello and your name. Let's run this. Intro.py. Intro.py. Enter your name. Okay, let's see. Anurag. Hello, Anurag. That's really simple actually. To take input from the user, you use the input function, and inside the user function you can just give you can supply the input string into your name, and then in the print you just return the variable name. That's all. Okay, now next thing to do is let's talk about variables first. Generally there are uh, generally the variable types that are available in any most of the programming languages are int for integer, string, integer, string, float numbers, and yeah, these are the basic variable types that most of the programming languages use. But in Python, we do not need to specify what type of variable we are trying to create. We just declare a variable, and no, actually there are no preprocessor directives in Python. Uh, it's kind of different from C and C++. It provides more flexibility and it's quite easy, so no bullshit involved. Just you can just get straight to the point using Python. So for example, if I need an integer, I just do this a equals to 1. Now we don't need to specify what the type of a is going to be. We just declare a variable a. Now if I want a string, I'll just write a name which is going to be string, and I give double quotes. Inside the double quote I give the string characters. This is a string, and no semicolons involved. You don't need to give semicolons or anything. It is a simple scripting language, that's why. I could also do 2.5, use the float numbers, stuff like this, and it will know automatically. Comma name, comma b. Let's print these three values. Probably they are going to appear without spacing. Intro.py. Yeah, 1, this is a string, and 2.5. It's as simple as that. Okay, so just so you are not confused, you can also use IDE. It makes your work more easier, but I think you should also know how to use a terminal to run and execute scripts as a programmer. That's why I prefer to use the terminal. Now, if you don't want to type intro.py again and again, you can just press your up arrow key in your keyboard, and going to it's automatically going to type the last used keyword for you. For example, I just typed intro.py, I pressed enter, the string got okay, sorry, the script got executed. We have the output here. Now if I press the up arrow key in my keyboard, I get intro.py automatically typed. So these are the variables, and how the variables don't need type declaration. Python interpreter will automatically detect whether the variable is an int, a string, or a float. Now, the reason this happens is because the variables in Python programming language are dynamically typed, which means the variables are dynamic in nature. They are going to adapt to the type of value they store. Now, let me show you guys with an example. I should increase. Yeah. Okay, let me do this. I'm going to open the Python interpreter and give you guys some example. So a equals to 1. This is an integer. If I want to look at the type of a, then a is a type integer. Now if I give the value of a as string inside the double quotation, now the a is going to be a string object, string type instead of int. Type of a, sorry, it's a string now. It's very simple. Okay, now the next thing that you need to know is the types of variables. There are generally two types of variables, local variables and global variables. So let me give you an example. Is equals to 5. Print. Let me define a function. To define a function in Python, we use the def keyword and the function name. I'll say display. And just like any other programming language, we provide small brackets so that we can pass arguments, and we give a colon to determine we give a colon so that we can determine the starting of the codes that are going to be inside the display function. Since Python does not have these curly brackets to define the boundary of the function, we use something called indentation in Python. Indentation. So what does that mean? It means that after I define a function name, and I have to start writing about the function. Let's say I want to print the value of a. Now since print a is the statement that we have to write inside the display function, we have to give proper spacing to define that the print a statement falls inside this display function. Maybe I should increase our settings. Okay. Yeah, this looks better. Now, if I want to execute this, I will probably get an error. I will have to call the function intro.py. Yeah, expected and indented block. So here we have so here the problem is we have not set what's going to be inside the function display function. Now if I give a tab proper spacing, then the Python interpreter is going to know that the statement print a is a part of display function because we have given an indentation inside this, right? A tab space. This is tab. Now if I also want another statement, let's say b is equals to 10, print b. Since b is the second statement of the function display, I also have to give the same indentation inside the display function. You can see here print a and print b have same indentation. That's why it's going to be executed now. Expected and indent. Okay, I have not saved the file. Yes, 5 and 10. Now if I don't indent it properly, it's going to think that print a. Okay, so it's going to the Python interpreter is going to think that print a is part of the display function but print b is not, because they don't have same level of indentation. So what's going to happen is first the value of b is going to be printed, then the display function is going to be called, after which the value of a is going to be printed. Let's see. Yes, value of b first, then value of a. Now if I want them to be inside the same function, I give same amount of spacing or indentation, then I write the statement. That's all. This defines the boundary of our function. This is also applicable for every other statements or keywords which require a boundary to be specified. For example, in C, we use these curly braces to define the statements that are part of a function. Now, let's talk about global and local variables. Here, a variable can be accessed by the display function, but c equals to 5. Let's see. So inside the display function, I defined a variable c equals to 5. Now let's try and print c. Let's see what we get. We get an error that c is not defined. Why? Because c is not a global variable. C is a local variable inside display. So we can't access a variable which has been declared inside a function and is not global. So C is going to be accessible only to the statements inside of the display function. Now if I print C here and call the display function, yeah, we get 5. Now even if we do this, print C, let's call the display first. So you would think that since I called display now, this function, this statement is going to be executed, and now print would be available. C, the value of C will be available, but no. We are still going to get an error since C is a local variable. Now if I use the keyword global, C must be globally available But first let's do this global C. Let's see what happens now. Invalid syntax. Yeah. Still C is not defined. So why are we getting this error? I've defined C as the value of C as global here. No, sorry, my mistake. What if I did this? And here also I declare a global C. C is equals to 5. Print the value of C. We get the value of 5 now because first I declared that C is going to be a global variable and we can make the value of C. Yeah, it does. It does. For example, yes, Venom, the global and local variable depends upon the scope of that particular variable. For example, here B is local to the main script, right? But B is not going to be the value of B is not going to be the same inside the display. For example, if I this is C, no, let's keep the value of C as 20, and inside here we will try to change the variable of C as 10. The result should be 20 because this the value of C is local to print, right? And here for display C is local only inside this particular function, so no change is going to occur. Now if I were to say C is global, now you can't assign a value directly to a global when you are declaring a variable as global. First you declare a variable as global, then you assign a certain value to that variable. Let's see the here I also have to specify that I'm using a global variable by using global C. Yeah, now I get 10 because what happened here is first I declared that C is a global variable. I assigned it a value of 20. Now then I call a display function. Now inside the display function I have to first specify that I want to use C variable which is global. So I use this, then I assign 10 to the C. Then when I print C, the value which I assigned is going to be, which I assigned recently is going to be the value of C. Like you can see, instead of 20, it's printing 10. Pretty much local and global variables work like this. Let's talk about assignments now. So I'm assigning a value of 20 to the variable C by using the equals to sign. I can assign multiple items. In Python, you can assign multiple items like this. Now, when this statement gets executed, the value of C is 20 and the value of B is going to be 10. Now, when I print C is C, comma C, and just like this, the value of B is B. If I execute the program, The value of C is 20, B is 10. Let's do like this: A comma B comma C, 10 comma 20 comma 30. Sorry, I am not printed the value of A. The value of A is, so I am passing the string, the value of C is comma, the value that I want to print, the variable that I want to print. So it's C in this case. The value of A is A, so variable A in this case. And I have assigned the values of these three variables at the same time by separating them with commas, and also their values serially with comma. Here we go. The value of A is 10, the value of B is 20, the value of C is 30. The next thing we do is delete. So this delete keyword is used to delete variables. For example, now if I do this, the A variable gets deleted. Now when I run the program, the value of C gets printed, B gets printed, but here we face an error because A is not defined. Why? Because we had already defined A, but we use the delete function del to delete that variable A, which means there is going to be no existence of A now. Okay, why can't I use print inside the display function? Because you have to pass that variable. Let's see. So let's say now let's revise what we have learned till now. So how to print the values inside a function? Let's see. First, let me declare a variable named C. I will give it a value of 5. I will define a function named display and print C, right? Then I will call the function. Not only defining is important, but you also have to call that particular function, right? Let's try to run this program. I'm sure we're going to face an error. Well, that was unexpected. Or you could just pass, n, print n, and I'm going to pass C. Now this function is now going to take argument. It takes one single argument. I've named that argument as n, and it's going to print the value of n. Now when I call the function, I need to pass the value. So since I want to display 5, I'm going to pass C, as C stores 5. So now let's see. It's going to have the same output, but in a different way, because this time it's checking arguments. Yeah, you calling a function is necessary too. Next thing to do, since we know about multiple assignments, so let me remind you, A comma B equals to 10 comma 20. This is called multiple assignments, because you can because you can assign multiple values to the multiple variables. Let's make a program that takes input from the user and swaps two numbers from the user and swaps those two numbers. Let's see. Let's first print the title. Okay, Since I want to print string, string must be inside double quotation swap, right? Now let's say a equals to input. Now whatever the input the user gives is going to be stored in the a variable, and let's give the statement that I want to display. Mm, enter an integer, right? B input enter an integer again. Now after I take values from the user and save it in these two variables, I need to define a function called swap. Okay, let's do it in two ways. First, let's do it in a simple way. Now by using the multiple assignment, I can do a comma b equals to b comma a. It's as simple as that. Then I have to print value of a comma a and print value of b comma b, right? Let's make this more clear. Enter the value of a and enter the value of b, right? All right, now let's try and run this script. In your terminal, type intro.py. Okay, something weird happened. Let's run that again. Enter the value of a. I'm going to set the value of a as 10 and b as 20. Now let's see. Yes, the value of a and b has been exchanged now. Yeah. Okay, so this was pretty easy, huh? Now let's try defining a function which swaps this, right? Now since a function can access these variables, but we can't access the value of the variables inside the function. Let me show you. Define swap. Here I have defined a function. The colon indicates the starting of the statements of the function. Now I have to give proper indentation for a function to work, the statements inside the function. So I give a tab. Here I write a comma b equals to b comma a. So you think this would work, but this is not going to work. Let's see. It has something to do with local and global variables. 10, 20, 10 and 20. This did not work. Why? Now a and b are local variables and I have not set them as global ones. I have also not called the function, by the way. Sorry. You need to call a function after you have defined it. Let's run the program. Enter the value of a10, b20. Local variable b referenced before assignment. Why did this happen? Because these are local variables, and it's not going to change the values of variables outside of the function. So when I print the value of a and b, the same value 10 and 20 appears. The numbers do not get swapped. In order to do this, I need to first define them as global. Global A. This makes the interpreter think that okay, now A is a global variable. Now the values are going to be same among the whole program. Global B. Now after declaring them as global, I will also do global A and global B inside the function, so that the function knows that it's going to be using the values of A and B. Now it uses the values of A and B outside the function and swaps them. Let's see if this works. 10, 20. Yeah, now it works. 20, the value of A is 20, value of B is 10. Right? As simple as that. Now, if they did not have this multiple assignment system in Python, then it would have been a little bit of a problem, because I would have to declare a third variable temp equals to A, so that I can save the value of A in temp function. Then A equals to B, so that A stores the value of B. Then B equals to temp, because the value of A is overwritten with the value of B, but we have saved the value of A inside the temp function, temp variable. Now B equals to temp. Let's see, intro.py, into the value of A, 10, 20, 20 and 10. But instead of writing these 3 lines of code, we can do it in single line of code using the multiple assignments. B comma A, piece of cake. 30, 30, 20. Now let's move on towards data types of Python. Okay, so what do I mean by data types of Python? By that, I don't mean string, float, or integer. I'm talking about data structures thing. There are three main things that three main components of a Python programming language, and they are list, a dictionary, and tuples. Tuple. Now I will explain them one by one, but first I will first describe about list, then tuple, and then dictionary. Let's do it. Let's do about lists first. So what are lists? Lists are like an array. If you have some familiarity with C and C++ or any other programming language, you must know about arrays. Let me give you an example and show you differences and similarities of lists and array. Okay, let me define a list. Lst equals to, so in okay, in C, what you would do is you would just declare the data type of the list. So the data type of the array, arr, and the number of elements that are going to be inside array. So let's see, If I wanted it to be foil 0 1 2 3, okay, right, then I will give to this semicolon 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5. Now in order to access it, I will use the array index a0 a1, just like this. It's similar in Python. Now since Python is dynamically typed, the variables in Python is dynamically typed, so it makes things more simpler. I can have a list having values which are of different data types, not like arrays. Unlike arrays, in C++, or any other programming language, inside an array, all the variables or all the values must have same data type, which is integer for this case. Now let me define a list in Python. lst, I don't need to give any type of margin, for example 10 or 5. I don't need to define how many elements there are going to be inside this list. Now just like we use curly brackets in C and C++, we use square brackets. Here we go, we have a list 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4. Now just like arrays, we can access it like lst 0, which will give us the first element, lst1, which will give us the second element, lst2, which will give us the third element, and lst4, which will give us the lst3, which will give us the fourth element, right? I hope you're clear till now. Okay, let me show you guys Python. So lst equals to 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5. I've defined a list which contains 5 elements, and they are 1 2 3 4 and 5 respectively, each of the data type being integers. If I print the lst, then I will get the output same as this. Yeah, 1 2 3 4 5. I get a list when I print the lst variable. Now if I say lst0, then what am I going to get? 1. Why? Because the first element of lst is 1. This is called indexing. Lists allow indexing just like arrays in any other programming language. And arrays start from 0. Just like that, lists, the indexing of lists start from 0. Now lst 4 is going to give me the last element 5. Yes, because 0 1 2 3 4. Now what if I do lst 0 equals to 9 and then print the lst0? It gives us 9 because I just changed the value of 1 to 9. To be more specific about what things that I can use, or what data types that I can use inside list, you can use any type of data types. For example, a list can have lst1 equals to 1 integer. This is a strings, and floats 6. Yeah, this is a string. and they are going to be typed accordingly. For example, type of lst 0 is going to be integer, right? Because the value is of type integer. Now type of second element of the list is going to be string, because what the hell, now sorry, I was using lst instead of lst1. lst1 is going to be string, and the last one is going to be float, because it's a integer, it's a string, and it's a float. Okay, I think you get the idea of what a list is now. It's like an array, but instead of all the values being of same data type, we can use any data type inside the list. Okay, now we can also do this 1 2 3 4 5, right? I can also have list inside a list, because list is a data type itself, right? So 1 2, sorry, I'd say 6 7 8 9, and yeah, list inside a list. If I print this lst1, if I print list1, let me run that script intro.py. Here we go, we get a list 1 2 3 4 5, and this defines the boundary like I told you, just like in arrays, and 6 7 8 9. That's pretty simple. If I want to add something in a list, then it's going to be pretty simple. lst dot append, and inside this I'm going to pass the value. For example, I want to add 9. Let me see, 1 2 3 4 5 9. Why 9? Because first I had set the values to be from 1 to 5. Then the next thing that I did was appended. I appended or added 9 to the last of the list. Then I printed the list, and you can see the result here. I could do list.pop. It's a function of the list object, and it's going to remove the last object. Dot pop, it pops the last object. Let's see, 1 2 3 4, because I just popped the last object, the last variable or the last value. So to access the functions of list, we use dot and that function name. Just like this, we can add a value or remove the value. Yeah, these are the basics. I guess this much should be enough for today. We will continue from lists tomorrow and move on to tuples and then dictionaries tomorrow. Okay guys, see you tomorrow.